All right, well, good morning, everybody from Reno. Well, I guess from Sparks, Nevada. I'm about to start heading south. I'm going to take the Highway 395 route, even though it's not exactly the most well covered. We did have a cold front move through last night and drop. It looks about 2 to 3 inches of snow, but it's really light powder, so whatever. But they did say that the high was supposed to be down to 17 degrees. This morning it was only supposed to be 17 degrees, but it's still 35. So I'm not sure, maybe that could just be the car misreading it because it's sort of insulated by snow. According to Torque Pro, the battery temperature was about 35 degrees as well. You know, the battery heater is running right now. It's using a little extra energy, but it's got the battery temperature up to almost 40 degrees at this point. Unfortunately, the hotel that I stayed at, the Tesla destination chargers, they've been offline long enough that they weren't listed on any PlugShare site. They're not even listed on Tesla's destination charger site. Like I said, I'm heading down Highway 395. This is still not a well-covered route. There are a number of chargers that are, coming soon, whatever that means in California typically, but there are some pretty long gaps. There's easily up to 8,000 feet summits that you have to get over, if I remember correctly. The charging providers have not emphasized Highway 395 as a route, despite the fact that it's a very important route in terms of tourism and in terms of recreation, even though it's not that important in terms of like a commuter route or a travel corridor, right? So I still don't think it should have been ignored as much as it has been. So it's going to be a bit of an adventure, but I'm not even going to really worry too much. I'm trying to get out of here by 8:30 a.m. and I'm not really going to time this trip because frankly, if you're doing a cannonball run, you shouldn't be taking Scenic Highway 395 anyway. That's kind of defeats the whole point of taking a scenic highway. All right, well, let's get packed up and ready to head out. All right, well, we made it to Gardnerville. This is just a quick stop. I'm just here at the Rayleighs. I wanted to grab a quick coffee and some breakfast, just something to snack on the way out. I didn't really eat before I left. Weather has been, what I expected, snowy, sleety. They're still plowing roads. There were accidents along the way. People are driving too fast. But, we kept it, I guess, an okay pace getting here and averaged 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour, which is actually higher than I thought it might be, given how wet and slushy and sleety the roads were. I didn't really need to run the heater at all. Again, I'm dressed for the weather. I really only run the heater for the defroster if that's necessary, but otherwise really 30 degrees isn't actually that cold. Cold enough to freeze water, but I'm hotter than that. But anyway, so yeah, we made it just fine. I'm charging up on, it's a 100 amp charger, but that really didn't matter. My battery temperature is still only 44 degrees when I got here, which meant even a 100 amp charger is going to be providing more than the power that the car can actually pull given that battery temperature. And I'm running the heater simultaneously, put it on max just to draw as much power as I can get out of this charger and try to heat up the battery as much as I can while it's charging. I'm just gonna have a quick snack, drink some coffee, and get ready to head out. All right, well, we swung by the Bridgeport Electrify America chargers. You know, I was 50-50 on whether or not these things would be up when I got here because it has been listed as under repair. And, you know, there's a BYD bus, all electric. It's Build Your Dreams. You know, they build them out of Lancaster right now, and it looks like they were trying to do some sort of a tour bus. And it looks like they really needed this charger to be online. Truck is over there with a towable generator, it looks like, having to recharge the BYD bus because I'm guessing part of it is just conditions were not conducive, but it doesn't matter. I think when you're talking about a big heavy bus like that, I don't know what the range is, but I mean, I just crested a 7,500 foot summit, and you're carrying that big of a bus, that big of a load, it's sub-freezing temperatures. I've got icicles forming on the back of my car right now. So yeah, not necessarily conducive for travel in a big electric vehicle like that, and you probably would need chargers like this to be active, in place, and running. But yeah, I know their transformer was down. I'm not actually going to knock this as a failed site because I planned around it. I could probably make it all the way to Bishop without stopping, but I'm going to stop in Lee Vining anyway. But yeah, I mean, I just grabbed a coffee and used the bathroom, wanted to check it out. The other thing I wanted to check is, you know, it's been 20-degree temperatures basically the whole drive here, and I left Gardnerville with like a 60-degree battery pack temperature, and now we're only down to 55 degrees, even though this was gentle driving and 20-degree temperatures. So, you know, it looks like, yeah, the Bolt EV would have held its battery temperature, and maybe that's something I want to hammer home as an idea if you're doing long trips in a Bolt EV in cold, freezing weather. Just make sure to use the DC fast chargers as battery heaters. Might as well, right? You're going to take extra energy, all of that. But, you know, the route is just as beautiful as I remember it. It just looks completely different in the snow and ice. So that's kind of a nice change. I've never seen it like this before. Highway 395 is a scenic route for a reason. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to stick around too long. I'm just going to pack up and head out. We're here in Lee Vining. It was only, you know, maybe 20-30 miles more to get here from the Bridgeport Electrify America charger. Lee Vining has this nice Clipper Creek chargers. I really love these setups where, you know, this is just a nice place to stop, have a picnic, spend some time with your family. Like, if you're in a rush, you're not using level 2 charging. I'm sorry, you're just not. And I don't think you should be rushing on a scenic highway anyway. And I'm sorry, there are far worse fates than getting stuck in Lee Vining for a couple of hours. And they do say please limit to 3 hours. And I can see that. You don't really want people hogging these chargers or whatever. I don't really have much to do at the park though, but I still haven't really eaten a real meal. That first EVgo charging stop, I grabbed a snack at the Rayleigh's and a coffee, but I'm actually going to go find something to actually sit down and eat and just sort of relax and unwind while I'm here in Lee Vining. It does look like there's some snow coming through, but I could probably make it to Bishop from here, but I'm not going to stress over it, right? I'm just going to enjoy my trip back to Southern California. And so far, it's been great. It's been scenic. It's been everything I've expected it to be. And maybe that's the big takeaway here is just go into any trips that you do with an electric vehicle with the proper expectations. Know that it is going to take you longer to fuel, and you're going to have to fuel more often than you would in a gas car. But plan around those stops. Expect to do something nice. Enjoy your time while you're doing it. And, you know, I'm going to enjoy a nice little walk through Lee Vining in the snow, take some scenic pictures of Mono Lake and hopefully grab some food. I'll have to check what's open and available. All right, well, I had a nice lunch. I decided I'm going to test out a new aero mod, see how well these icicles forming on the bottom of the battery work. But in all seriousness, I'm checking Torque Pro right now. Looks like while we're level 2 charging, it's maintaining 55 degree pack temperatures, which, considering right now it's 30 degrees outside, that's pretty decent. That's pretty much all you can ask for, is adding miles and keeping the battery warm. It does turn out that I could probably have made it to Bishop pretty easily with the capacity that I arrived here with, but I plan to stop here for lunch, check out the chargers, and this is another one of those principles where if you're driving through an area with sparse EV charging support and possibly shifting weather conditions, you just don't know what to expect. That's that ABC rule, just always be charging. Well, there's a free charger here hosted by Levining. It's Gus Hess Park, and it's got solar panels, and yeah, even on an overcast day these are producing power. So technically I'm charging on sunlight right now. And yeah, I just ran into town, or walked into town, grabbed a lunch, and now we're ready to hit the road, and we can just jam it to Bishop and really not worry at all about having the battery capacity needed to get there. Let's get ready to head out. Well, we made it to Bishop just fine. As I was thinking, I could have made it all the way to Bishop without even stopping at Levining. But, I wanted to anyway. I was continuing to do some of my experiments with the battery temperature. I was able to keep the battery temperature up to close to 60 degrees on the way in, but, it still didn't seem to matter. I think in order to max out the Bolt EV's charging rate, or at least the pre-2020 Bolt EV's charging rate on these faster than 150 amp chargers, you're going to need the temperature of the battery to be at least 70 degrees Fahrenheit. But it looks like you can probably max out those 125 amp 50 kilowatt chargers when the battery is still only about 64 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. So it seems that there's a little bit of a range and a little bit of a play there. Now, in this case, I pretty much banked on having to be here for about an hour. There's an Electrify America site that's going in on 395, but it looks like it's still at least a month or two away from going online, and so that means I need to make about 175 mile stretch from here in Bishop to Mojave, where there's another Electrify America site. And ironically, really, there's no elevation benefit that I can see. We're at about 4,000 feet here in Bishop, and you may be 500 feet lower in Mojave, so there's not going to be a huge amount of gain. We do have a very strong wind that is going to be mostly a tailwind, but this route doesn't just go in one direction, so a lot of times it's going to probably be a crosswind as well. So I don't want to count on it for any benefit whatsoever in terms of efficiency. We have warmed up quite a bit though. It is 40 degrees, so at least the icicles are starting to melt off the bottom of the battery. But like I said, because there's basically zero public charging infrastructure between here and Mojave, I'm going to be more cautious and charge up to at least about 85% battery, so I feel fairly confident in being able to go 175 miles at freeway speeds. You know, there's not really a whole lot that you're losing. Like I said, 10-15 minutes of time. And this is a leisurely sort of trip back. I'm not trying to break any speed records, especially not with this weather. So yeah, I'm gonna do a quick site review for here, this Bishop Charger, and then I'm gonna get packed up and ready to go. Well, we made it to Mojave, the Electrify America Charger here, and you know, I was sort of going a bit slower as I was leaving Bishop, even though we had that tailwind, and it was only 175 miles and I had 85% battery. I intentionally was a little bit soft heading out just because I was anticipating basically that the weather wasn't exactly going to be conducive, and sure enough, we hit Lone Pine. It was basically rain and sleet and slush. By the time we got into the Mojave Desert, like the winds literally shifted directions almost 180 degrees, because that's what actually started to get me worried. Is my consumption was higher once I got out of the rain and out of the snow, because I was literally going into a headwind at that point. So by the time I arrived here, right, I already had almost only 5% battery, and so you know, that's just basically a word of caution. I know how shifting the weather can be around here, so yeah, you have to anticipate that. I want to do a quick site review of this site, but this is, now we're finally getting into basically known territory, right? We're finally getting to an area where there's actually infrastructure, and so I can be a little bit more aggressive about my charging, and instead of like I would on a long highway trip without a lot of infrastructure, charging up to 65, 75, 80%, I can start doing those shorter 30-minute, 35-minute charging sessions, basically whatever makes sense for the stop, and then moving on. This place doesn't have a whole lot going on, so yeah, I'm actually going to spend as little time as I can here. Basically want to review the site and go because I need to use the bathroom. So, all right, getting ready to head out. Well, that was kind of crazy. So, you know, we left Mojave. I knew I wanted to check out this Santa Clarita Electrify America charger that went in at this Walmart over here. But what I didn't realize is, first of all, that San Francisquito Canyon, holy cow, crazy. I've never driven that road before. So it was pretty cool. Just a nice little forest road cutting across the mountains. I can see it's probably just sort of a back road that a lot of people seem to take, probably as a shortcut. So that was super cool. And then I realized when I got here, I've actually been to this Walmart before. Crazy enough, I'd never been to this Walmart before, but they were the only one who had a pharmacy open like close to midnight basically when I had to go to the emergency room for a staph infection. Whole nother story. But yeah, I've never been back here since, but it's kind of cool. So it's the same Walmart. They're open until midnight. Yeah, I'm just going to get a quick top up. I probably could have made it all the way home, actually, from Mojave. I'm not sure. Yeah, who knows? But anyway, we got here about 12 hours after I left Sparks, Reno, Nevada. I mean, we've only gone 440 miles in 12 hours, so we're not like doing breakneck speed, but I kind of knew that going into it. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick site review. This is a really cool site, and then I'm basically just going to pack up and head out. Well, there you go, just over 13 hours to go 484.4 miles with, you know, basically down Highway 395 on the eastern side of the Sierra Nevadas. You know, and I mean, that's not a great average trip speed by any estimate, but given the nature of the trip that I was taking, I actually think it's pretty reasonable. I mean, and yeah, if you're wanting to make this trip faster, you're going to have to wait for the Electrify America chargers in Bridgeport and Coso Junction to go online. Once that happens, the trip will be super easy. You know, unfortunately, the hotel that I stayed at, the Tesla destination chargers, they must have been offline for a while. And, you know, had I been able to charge up in my hotel room, man, the trip, even given the current charging infrastructure, would have been pretty easy, actually. And as it is, you know, I did a lot of overcharging and probably charged way more than I needed to. You know, I'm arriving home with over 50% battery, which is just not normally what happens. But this is just more of a road trip and a sightseeing trip than it was any sort of cannonball run. Like I said, the infrastructure's coming. Highway 395 is probably not a passable route for short-range electric vehicles right now, but with a little bit of planning, any of the longer-range electric vehicles should be able to manage it. Like I said, I was driving through a snowstorm for half of it, so yeah, I mean, all told, like I said, I think the Bolt EV is just as capable as I assumed. I tried to make it as hard on myself as I possibly could, choosing a route and weather and conditions that would be challenging, and the Bolt EV took it like a champ, you know. So I actually think this car is far more capable than a lot of people are giving it credit for, and I think you sort of dismiss it at your own peril. And you know, I would use caution in putting too much stock in the opinions of people who are maybe ignorant about how to actually operate a car like this, because I feel like some people will get into the Bolt EV feeling like they're some sort of an authority on electric vehicles and they won't be able to maximize its capabilities. And I don't think that it's fair to let their ignorance or inability reflect poorly on the Bolt EV. I think it's actually perfectly capable if you know what you're doing and you go into your trip with proper expectations, right? The learning curve is a little bit high, but once you've mastered that, it's really easy to do very long trips that tax you as a person far more than they tax the car. So that's my spiel. But anyway, it was a fun trip. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot. If you did, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And thank you for watching.